Question 1. In light of recent developments, Inspector Claro is conducting a home inspection on a hillside property. During her exterior inspection, she notes that the soil near the foundation is sloped toward the house. The homeowner recently added decorative landscape edging that unintentionally blocks natural water runoff. Clara also notices a few vertical cracks near the lower part of the foundation wall and some water staining in the basement. What should Clara, as the most probable issue in the appropriate recommendation? A. Poor soil compaction. Recommend a structural engineer immediately. B. Improper grading causing water intrusion. Recommend correcting grading and monitoring foundation. C. Normal settlement. No action needed unless cracks widen. D. Faulty interior waterproofing. Recommend sump pump installation. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. According to InterNACHI's standards of practice for exterior SS.0 and SS.1, proper grading is essential to direct surface water away from the foundation. In this scenario, the landscape edging obstructs drainage, and sloping soil toward the foundation increases hydrostatic pressure, potentially causing water intrusion and foundation movement. While vertical cracks may indicate typical settlement, combined water staining suggests active infiltration. Structural engineers are necessary for major foundation failures, but this case first demands addressing drainage issues per best practices outlined in InterNACHI's moisture intrusion inspection course, thus recommending grading correction and monitoring aligns with industry standards in inspector duty. Question 2. From a practical standpoint, which of the following best describes an inspector's ethical obligation under InterNACHI's Code of Ethics when the client offers a bonus for omitting minor defects from the report? A. Accept the bonus if the defects are minor and don't pose safety issues. B. Politely refuse the bonus and report all findings objectively. C. Accept the bonus but note the defect verbally, not in writing. D. Ask the client to revise the contract to exclude the defect documentation. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. InterNACHI's Code of Ethics SI.1 states that inspectors must avoid conflicts of interest or activities that compromise or appear to compromise professional independence, objectivity, or inspection integrity. Accepting bonus to omit findings breaches this clause and risks professional liability and license revocation. Reporting findings fully and objectively is the only compliant and ethical choice. Even if defect is perceived as minor, inspectors are obligated to report it if it falls within the SOP. Legal consequences may also arise under consumer protection laws for misrepresentation or omission. Question 3. The effectiveness of roof flashing is a major concern during inspection. Inspector Marco is evaluating a roof with asphalt shingles. He observes step flashing along the chimney but notes that the flashing is sealed entirely with roofing cement. What should Marco conclude? A. The flashing is properly installed and sealed. B. Sealing flashing with cement is standard to prevent leaks. C. The flashing may trap water and should be reinstalled correctly without relying solely on cement. D. The chimney itself likely has a structural flaw. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. InterNACHI's residential standards of practice SS.0 for roofing systems state that inspectors must inspect roof penetrations and flashing. Best practices dictate that step flashing should direct water over shingles naturally. Using roofing cement can cause water entrapment and premature failure. The International Residential Code, ORR 0321, echoes this by requiring flashing to be installed in a way that prevents water infiltration without relying solely on sealants. Therefore, Marco should note improper flashing installation and recommend correction to prevent long-term damage. Question 4. Based on the information, Inspector Anita is inspecting an older home with a fuse box instead of a modern breaker panel. She notes that several circuits are double-tapped, and the client expresses interest in adding new kitchen appliances. What is Anita's best course of action? A. Advise the client to replace the panel before adding appliances. B. Recommend rewiring only the kitchen circuit. C. Approve the system as acceptable since it functions. D. Suggest removing one appliance to reduce load. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. Double tapping in fused panels is a known hazard. The National Electrical Code and InterNACHI electrical SOPs highlight that double tapping can lead to overheating and fire risk. Fuse boxes are outdated and not suited for modern electrical demands. Upgrading to a breaker panel enhances safety and ensures capacity for new appliances. Inspectors must not advise specific brands or installations but may report condition and recommend further evaluation or replacement by a licensed electrician as per SOP SS.9. Question 5. During the process of an attic inspection, Inspector Bennett observes insulation covering recessed lighting fixtures not rated as insulation contact. What concern should he document? A. No concern if insulation is fiberglass. B. Excessive insulation could reduce energy efficiency. C. Risk of fire due to improper insulation contact. D. Fixtures may rust due to trapped moisture. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. According to InterNACHI's attic insulation, ventilation, and interior SOPs SS.10, inspectors must identify hazards related to insulation and ventilation. Covering non-I-crated lights with insulation can lead to overheating and fire. The NEC also requires that only I-crated fixtures may come into contact with insulation. Bennett should document the fire hazard and recommend removal of insulation. Contact with these fixtures. Safety trumps energy efficiency in this case. Question 6. Examining the consequences of what is the most likely implication of discovering efflorescence on an interior basement wall during a standard home inspection. A. It indicates structural failure and immediate collapse. B. It is cosmetic and requires no mention in the report. C. It suggests moisture intrusion and possible long-term damage. D. It proves that the foundation has been waterproofed. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Efflorescence is a crystalline deposit of salt, often appearing white, left behind when water evaporates from masonry. According to InterNACHI's moisture intrusion training in SUP SS.3, its presence indicates that water has migrated through the masonry. While not structurally damaging by itself, persistent moisture can lead to mold, structural weakening, or air quality issues. Thus, it should be documented and evaluated for source mitigation like grading or drainage corrections. Question 7. When faced with the task of evaluating a wood-framed deck, Inspector Lynn notices that the ledger board is fastened with nails and lacks flashing. What should be his primary concern? A. Loose nails will cause squeaky boards. B. Ledger flashing is not required for all decks. C. Risk of deck collapse due to water intrusion and detachment. D. Nails provide superior strength compared to bolts. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Improper attachment of ledger boards is one of the top causes of deck collapse, as noted in InterNACHI's deck inspection course. Ledger boards must be bolted and flashed to prevent water intrusion, which leads to rot and detachment. RR07-2 requires mechanical fasteners and flashing. Nails lack the shear strength needed for load-bearing connections. Inspector Lynn should document this as significant safety defect and recommend correction by qualified contractor. Question 8. The predominant theory suggests that communication before and after the inspection plays a major role in client satisfaction. What is one of the most critical communication practices for a home inspector? A. Offering repair services directly to clients. B. Discussing major defects after report delivery only. C. Managing expectations prior to the inspection and providing real-time explanations. D. Limiting conversation to avoid legal issues. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Client communication is a core principle under InterNACHI's SUP SS.1 and the Code of Ethics. Managing expectations helps prevent misunderstandings and post-inspection disputes, explaining that inspectors identify visible and accessible issues, not code compliance or guarantees. Clarifies the scope. Real-time insights help clients understand defects' implications. Offering repair services violates ethical standards due to conflict of interest. Inspectors are encouraged to inform, not alarm, clients. Question 9. From a historical standpoint, why is it critical to inspect older homes with original knob and tube wiring, even if it appears intact? A. It cannot be insured, so must be removed. B. It is typically aluminum, which is highly conductive. C. It lacks grounding and can overheat when modified. D. It causes magnetic field disturbances. Answer. Correct answer. See explanation. Knob and tube (KT) wiring was used before grounding was common. While not illegal, it becomes dangerous when modern loads or insulation surround it. Per InterNACHI's electrical SOPs and safety guidelines, the absence of grounding and potential overheating from insulation contact are serious risks. The NEC advises that existing KT may remain only if not altered. Most insurers and lenders require its or evaluation due to fire risk. Question 10. Throughout the course of a plumbing inspection, Inspector Nadia observes that a water heater lacks a temperature pressure relief TPR discharge pipe. What danger does this represent? A. Slight drop in water pressure. B. Minor scalding hazard only. C. Potential for explosion under pressure. D. No issue if water heater is electric. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. TPR valves are required safety devices per ASA P80361 and must have a proper discharge pipe to direct scalding water safely. Without the pipe, hot water and steam could spray outward if the valve activates, or worse, the heater may rupture due to unrelieved pressure. This is a critical safety defect. Whether electric or gas, all tank type heaters must have functioning PPR system verified under InterNACHI's plumbing inspection SOP. Question 11. As demonstrated by a recent inspection in a coastal property, Inspector Raymond discovers that the exterior cladding consists of fiber cement siding installed without a visible gap above the flashing. There are signs of paint peeling and moisture intrusion is suspected behind the siding. What is the most appropriate observation and recommendation? A. Siding is not defective. Paint peeling is cosmetic only. B. Moisture intrusion is unrelated to installation. Recommend repainting. C. Installation lacks proper drainage gap. Recommend evaluation and repair. D. Fiber cement siding does not require gaps. No issue present. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. According to manufacturer guidelines e.g. James Hardy and InterNACHI's exterior inspection standards SS.2, fiber cement siding must include 1 4-inch gap above flashing for drainage and expansion. Without this, moisture can wick behind the siding, leading to deterioration. Peeling paint is often symptom of trapped moisture. This installation defect should be documented with recommendations for correct to avoid further structural issues. Question 12. By evaluating a crawl space during inspection, Inspector Denise notices torn vapor barriers, exposed soil, and high humidity. Several floor joists show signs of fungal growth and surface discoloration. Which of the following should Denise conclude? A. The vapor barrier is sufficient as long as the soil is mostly covered. B. The conditions suggest active moisture problems. Recommend full moisture control evaluation. C. Fungal growth is expected and not reportable. D. The joist discoloration is purely cosmetic. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. InterNACHI's crawl space inspection standards SS.10. 3 emphasize evaluating moisture, ventilation, and vapor barrier effectiveness. Exposed soil releases moisture and torn barriers reduce protection. Combined with fungal growth, these conditions suggest chronic humidity issues that may compromise structural integrity. Fungal growth is not just cosmetic. It's an indicator of sustained dampness and may lead to wood decay. This requires documentation and recommendation for qualified specialists. Question 13. While examining a furnace in an older home, Inspector Elijah notices that the return duct is located in the same mechanical room as a gas water heater. There's no separation or sealed combustion. What is the greatest concern here? A. No concern. Both appliances are common in shared spaces. B. Return duct location could cause backdrafting of combustion gases. C. The furnace return location improves heating efficiency. D. The water heater needs to be electric in shared rooms. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. According to InterNACHI's HVAC inspection guidelines and building science principles, return air ducts in the same space as an atmospherically vented gas appliance like water heater can create negative pressure, pulling combustion gases into the ductwork. Dangerous condition known as backdrafting. This can lead to carbon monoxide exposure. Proper separation, sealed combustion units, or combustion air provisions must be installed per our NFPA 54. Question 14. The most significant aspect of deck stair inspection is ensuring user safety. Inspector Linda inspects a 6-step deck stairway and observes that the riser heights vary by 1.25 inches from step to step. What safety implication does this present? A stair riser variation under 1.5 inches is acceptable per industry standards. B. Uneven risers pose a trip hazard. A correction should be recommended. C. Variations are common in older homes and not a defect. D. Only commercial decks require uniform risers. Answer. Correct answer, B. Explanation. InterNACHI and the International Residential Code (IASA 11751) specify that the greatest riser height difference between the tallest and shortest risers shall not exceed 3.8 inch. A 1.25 inch difference significantly exceeds this limit and is a known trip hazard. It may not only cause injury, but could expose the homeowner to liability. Inspector Linda must report this as safety concern. Question 15. Contrary to popular belief, aluminum branch wiring in homes built during the 1960s-1970s is not inherently safe. Inspector Nora identifies aluminum wiring connected directly to outlets and switches without proper connectors. What is the primary concern? A. Aluminum wiring doesn't conduct electricity as well as copper. B. Aluminum connections can oxidize and overheat, leading to fire hazards. C. The wiring may interfere with wire and electronics. D. Aluminum is more expensive to maintain than copper. Answer. Correct answer, B. Explanation. Aluminum wiring expands and contracts more than copper, leading to loose connections over time. Oxidation at terminals can result in increased resistance and overheating, raising the risk of fire. The U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission (CC) identifies this as a fire hazard. InterNACHI recommends evaluation by a licensed electrician for corrective options like copolymer crimps or alkylated devices. Question 16. With the advent of advanced water pressure boosters, Inspector Jared inspects a home where water pressure at an exterior hose bib measures over 90 psi. What is the most appropriate conclusion? A. High pressure ensures strong water flow and is desirable. B. Water pressure above 80 psi may damage plumbing fixtures and should be regulated. C. Exterior hose bibs are exempt from pressure standards. D. Pressure readings fluctuate and don't require reporting. Answer. Correct answer, B. Explanation. RIP.1 and InterNACHI plumbing SOPs. Water pressure in residential systems should not exceed 80 psi. Excessive pressure can stress pipes, faucets, water heaters, and appliances. It may also void manufacturer warranties. The correct course is to report the condition and recommend installation or adjustment of a pressure-reducing valve P. Question 17. One might argue that it's acceptable to perform home inspections in extreme weather. During roof inspection in heavy snowfall, Inspector Felix chooses not to walk the roof or evaluate roof coverings in detail. What is the best course of action? A. Proceed with inspection as normal and estimate findings. B. Skip the roof section entirely without noting it. C. Disclaim the roof condition and document weather limitations. D. Ask the seller for the roof condition history and include that in the report. Answer. Correct answer, C. Explanation. InterNACHI SUP SS.2 and SS.0 allow inspectors to disclaim components that are not visible due to unsafe conditions or inaccessibility. Snow obscures roof conditions, making walking hazardous and visual inspection incomplete. The inspector must document the limitation and recommend follow-up evaluation when conditions improve, including whether disclaimers preserves inspector liability protection. Question 18. Through careful analysis of the client's report, Inspector June realizes she forgot to include plumbing defect in the final document. The defect involved an actively leaking P-trap under the kitchen sink, which the client noticed post-inspection. What is the most ethical and professional response? A. Ignore the issue since the inspection is already over. B. Claim the defect developed after the inspection. C. Acknowledge the oversight, update the report, and apologize. D. Offer discount in exchange for silence. Answer. Correct answer, C. Explanation. Per InterNACHI's Code of Ethics and Standards of Practice SS.0, inspectors must act in good faith and with integrity. Errors should be corrected promptly, acknowledging the oversight, updating the report, and communicating transparently reflect professionalism and may mitigate potential liability. Concealment or deflection damages credibility and may result in legal consequences under consumer protection laws. Question 19. To better understand heat loss, Inspector Aisha evaluates attic insulation and finds only 3 inches of fiberglass batting, a home located in a cold climate zone. What conclusion should be drawn? A. 3 inches is sufficient in all regions. B. More insulation is needed to meet energy efficiency standards. C. Insulation is less important in attics than walls. D. Fiberglass insulation is outdated and must be replaced. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. In cold climates, the DOE Table N1021-2 recommend attic insulation levels of R38 to R60, which far exceeds what 3 inches of fiberglass R11 provides. Under-insulated attics lead to energy loss and comfort issues. Inspectors should not prescribe insulation types but may report insufficient levels relative to local climate and recommend improvement. Question 20. Among the various electrical system issues, Inspector Caleb observes that multiple light switches in the kitchen are not labeled and control random outlets and fixtures. What is the appropriate inspection finding? A. Unlabeled switches are cosmetic and need no mention. B. Switches must only be labeled in commercial buildings. C. Lack of labeling may confuse users and impair safety during emergencies. D. Lighting circuits don't require documentation. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. While not an explicit violation of residential code, InterNACHI standards and client safety considerations support reporting confusing or poorly marked electrical systems. Lack of clarity can hinder emergency response or repairs. Proper labeling enhances usability and safety, and an inspector should document the condition and recommend labeling for convenience and clarity. Question 21. The central argument for using proper roof ventilation systems lies in long-term structural health. Inspector Paul finds that a home with asphalt shingles has a ridge vent installed, but no soffit vents are present. The attic shows signs of condensation and mold. What is the most accurate interpretation? A. Ridge vents are sufficient alone if the attic is large. B. Soffit vents are unnecessary in colder climates. C. Lack of intake ventilation compromises airflow and causes moisture accumulation. D. Ridge vents are primarily aesthetic. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Ventilation systems require balanced intake, soffit, and exhaust ridge vents to allow continuous airflow. Without soffit vents, ridge vents draw minimal or no air, leading to stagnant moisture and mold growth. InterNACHI's attic ventilation inspection course and ER specify the necessity of proper airflow for attic health. This is a clear case of improper ventilation strategy. Question 22. From multiple perspectives, what is the most appropriate action when Inspector Amir identifies mold-like staining in a finished basement with a musty odor? A. Recommend mold remediation services and confirm the substance is toxic mold. B. Recommend further evaluation by a mold or indoor air quality specialist. C. Collect samples and submit for lab testing. D. Clean the area and retest after 24 hours. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Per InterNACHI's mold inspection SOP, home inspectors are not required or qualified to identify mold types or perform remediation. Instead, they should document visible signs and recommend evaluation by qualified professionals. Making health-related conclusions without lab results or proper licensure exceeds the standard scope and could pose legal risk. Question 23. The underlying principle of grounding and bonding in electrical systems is to ensure safety. During an inspection, Inspector Chloe notices that the grounding wire in the main panel is loosely connected and shows signs of corrosion. What should she do? A. Report this as a minor issue unless the panel is overloaded. B. Recommend immediate evaluation by a licensed electrician. C. Advise client to monitor the corrosion over time. D. Grounding wires do not require firm connections. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. A loose or corroded grounding wire poses serious safety hazards, including electric shock and system failure. According to NEC Article 250 in InterNACHI's electrical SOP, grounding conductors must be continuous, firmly attached, and corrosion-free. CLOE is required to document the condition and recommend immediate action to avoid injury or fire hazards. Question 24. The conventional wisdom about water heaters assumes tank integrity unless leaks are visible. However, Inspector Jalen hears a popping sound during operation and sees sediment stains near the pressure relief valve. Weighs the most likely cause: A. Thermal expansion causing normal noise. B. Sediment buildup causing overheating and stress. C. A defective heating element vibrating inside. D. Normal air pocket fluctuations. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Popping sounds usually indicate sediment buildup at the bottom of the tank, which traps heat and causes mini explosions. Over time, this increases stress on the tank and shortens lifespan. InterNACHI's water heater inspection standards highlight this condition as common maintenance-related defect. Water heater flush and inspection by licensed plumber should be recommended. Question 25. Taking into account standards for deck safety, Inspector Ramon finds the guardrails on the second-story deck are 32 inches high. No horizontal members are present. What should he conclude? A. The guardrails meet the standard height and require no comment. B. Guardrails are insufficient in height and pose a fall hazard. C. Guardrails only apply to commercial decks. D. Horizontal members are required, regardless of height. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Per InterNACHI and ERR 1212, guardrails must be at least 36 inches high for decks higher than 30 inches above grade. A 32-inch guardrail fails to meet this requirement and increases fall risk, especially for children or elderly occupants. Inspector Ramon must report this as a safety defect and recommend correction. Question 26. Throughout the course of the inspection, Inspector Leela notices that the electric dryer vent terminates in the attic rather than outside. The attic smells of lint and has visible dust accumulation near the vent. What is the best recommendation? A. No concern since it's an electric dryer. B. Recommend relocating the vent to an exterior location immediately. C. Advise periodic attic cleaning. D. Suggest upgrading to condensing dryer. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Dryer vents must terminate outdoors to prevent lint accumulation and moisture buildup. Venting into the attic introduces fire risk and promotes mold growth due to high humidity. InterNACHI's dryer vent best practices and ERM.3 mandate exterior venting for safety and indoor air quality. Inspector Leela should advise immediate correction. Question 27. Focusing specifically on attic inspections, Inspector Carlos observes that the insulation is densely packed into the eave soffit vents. What defect does this create? A. It improves energy efficiency by sealing airflow. B. It blocks ventilation, leading to moisture buildup and attic overheating. C. Insulation in soffits is standard in cold regions. D. Ventilation only applies to ridge vents. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Blocked soffit vents prevent air intake and disrupt ventilation. According to InterNACHI's ventilation SOP and DOE guidelines, this causes condensation, wood rot, and reduced shingle lifespan. Baffles or proper air chutes should be installed to preserve airflow. Inspector Carlos should document the blocked vents and recommend correction. Question 20. Under the assumption that all plumbing fixtures drain normally, Inspector Tanya observes gurgling sounds in the kitchen sink when the washing machine drains. What is the likely cause? A. Loose piping under the sink. B. Lack of proper venting, causing negative air pressure. C. Gurgling is a sign of normal water displacement. D. High water pressure from the washing machine. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Gurgling indicates improper venting, usually due to an undersized or missing air admittance valve or vent stack. This creates a vacuum, slowing drainage and allowing sewer gases to escape. Per RP and InterNACHI's plumbing SOP, inspectors should report this symptom and recommend further evaluation by licensed plumber. Question 29. As evidenced by the exterior inspection, Inspector Naomi sees a stucco wall with several hairline cracks near window corners and discolored patches at the base. What does this indicate? A. Cosmetic wear only. Is stucco always cracks? B. Settlement cracks from improper soil compaction. C. Potential moisture intrusion. Recommend invasive moisture testing. D. Paint fading due to UV exposure. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Hairline cracks near stress points like windows combined with discoloration strongly suggest water intrusion behind the stucco. InterNACHI's Stucco Knife's inspection guide warns that water trapped in stucco assemblies can cause mold and wood rot. Moisture testing or further evaluation is warranted even if the cracks appear minor. Question 30. The correlation between smoke alarm placement and occupant safety is well documented. Inspector Dan notes that a two-story home has a single smoke detector in the basement stairwell. What should be reported? A. This is compliant if the smoke detector is interconnected. B. One smoke detector per floor is sufficient. C. Smoke detectors are required inside and outside sleeping areas and each level. D. Placement is acceptable if a carbon monoxide detector is present. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Per R and InterNACHI's safety standards, smoke alarms must be installed inside each bedroom, outside sleeping areas, and on every floor. Single unit is insufficient, especially in sleeping quarters. Modern code also requires interconnection so all alarms sound simultaneously. Inspector Dan must report non-compliance and recommend installation per code.